Hey everyone, can you hear me? Looks like we have everyone here. All right. Dan Obermeyer and Daniel Lissack. Actually, Danielle is logging in.
I'm here. Can you hear
Hello?
me?
Hey.
Hey, Daniel.
Hi, guys. Oh, come on. Do I have to share my video?
Yep. You must share. We are. There you go. The audience wants to see all of us.
Okay.
Well, team, thanks for joining. We are extremely busy here at McBride Consulting, and two of my all-stars, Dan Obermeyer and Danielle Lissack, will be have been gracious with their time and will be driving today's conversation around returning to work in post-COVID. That's already started to happen in some cities, but for the most part, not yet. So we're going to talk about what we're doing as an organization and share our thoughts around that and walk through what we've built and what we can do for others and provide some very good tips. So without spending too much time going through the agenda, I'm going to provide some quick introductions, or allow my team to provide some quick introductions of themselves, and we'll get right into the content. Again, everyone, thanks for joining. Or for our audience will be joining in the future. I should say this is a recorded Zoom session. And bear with us, audience, future audience. This is our first Zoom. We've been using GoTo and some other technologies. We just signed up for Zoom. We're joining the pack, and I think today we may have some learning pains, so bear with us. All right, let's start with Daniel Obermeyer.
Yeah, thanks, Lonnie. I'm Dan Obermeyer. I'm the public sector leader for McBride Consulting. I lead everything from project management of execution of work with our clients to business development to recruiting on the public sector side, and really focusing on building our practice out in the federal, state, and local markets, as well as with some international multilateral organizations. So looking forward to the discussion today.
Great, thanks,
Danielle.
Dan.
Hi, I'm Danielle, and I do lots of things. I'm SharePoint, and I also work with NeoCase in customer service development and support. Can't think of anything. Right.
And you're also one of our marketing rock stars. Let's not forget that, Danielle. Yeah. So Danielle is not giving herself enough credit. She is a very talented developer, SharePoint developer for McBride. She also supports our NeoCase deployment and a lot of marketing around that. NeoCase software. We are a partner with NeoCase Software, which is a great HR, accounting, and finance case management system. And Danielle also helps us in a variety of other areas. And as Dan Obermeyer mentioned, he leads our public sector and will be kicking off today's presentation, which is again focused on returning to work post-COVID. Go ahead, Dan.
Thanks, Lonnie. Yeah, so this is obviously a very big and broad topic, and I think when it comes to going back to work, no one really knows how this is all going to work out, and I think you're going to see people coming back to work from different industries depending on their ability to do work remotely, how productive they've been, and really the status of certain businesses. I think from my perspective, when you think about as a leader of an organization, what would be the impetus for people coming back to work? And really the main point, and it seems obvious, and I think it's very obvious, is the health and well-being of your staff, and making sure that not only are they safe and healthy and comfortable with coming back to work, but that they themselves feel safe and feel like they are not being forced to do something that is outside of their comfort zone. Because I think one of the most important things to getting people to be productive and to work on the things they need to be working on is that they feel safe and comfortable in their environment, and that is 100% paramount in any situation. And so, I think it's on the leadership teams for organizations to make sure that that is the case. And of course, there are things out of your control. You can't control, the metro and the subway and everything else. But I think, as you'll see in our SharePoint site where we talk about whether your decision is to stay home because you're actually sick, because you need to work from home for any number of reasons, or whether it's worth going to the office or even traveling for work. And I think organizations are really going to be looking at what is the benefit of traveling, and things that, in the past would have been absolutely we need to be in a room talking about things, I think are going to be, considered in a different way. And so when it comes to actually getting back to work, if we talk about the consulting business first, I mean, as most consultants know, your office is your computer, so you can sort of do work anywhere. But one of the challenges for us, and certainly in the public sector, is when we work on site with clients, we tend to squeeze in wherever we can and work with them. And we'll go there for a full day, and we may be in cubes with 3 or 4 people. And I don't see that being how things are going to look when we come back to the office. And so, it's going to be on the leaders of the team and understanding what your client is looking for to determine who can stay home and who should be at the company office and who should be at the client site, and making sure that people are social distancing and doing all the things we've been told to do. But I think this period of the last 3 months has allowed us to be in a better position where companies in the past that may not have been as interested in teleworking are now understanding the benefits, not only to their staff, but potentially to productivity. People are productive when they're at home, generally speaking. I think the people who aren't productive from a staff perspective probably aren't productive at the office either. So I think it's getting to a point where you are, companies are realizing that this is really a valuable resource for their staff, and a valuable resource for their organization, and a recruiting tool as well. And then with that, just from a technology perspective, this has forced everyone to figure out how to use all these different tools. I mean, there's so many of them out there. We're on Zoom right now, but there are many other ones. I think I've probably used at least a half dozen different systems during this period with clients, with teaming partners, and internally. So, it's going to be on how staff, specific, comfort of staff, understanding who can be there and who needs to be on site with clients. Now, consulting is a little bit different because, like I said, our computer is our office. Other organizations are going to be required to have staff come into the office, and that's going to be a juggling act. And part of it is going to be focused on, how your office space is laid out, and whether it is safe for people to come in and sit next to each other, and what conference rooms look like, and how all that plays together. So those are going to be some of the hurdles I think organizations face. But, we are, McBride Consulting, we are in a customer service, client service business. And, over the years, at least leading up to this, and now also, but, we listen to our clients. If our clients need us on site, we are on site immediately, right? We will be on site every day, and we will sit wherever we have an option to sit. And I think now clients are realizing that's not as easy, at least in the short term, and that there will need to be a little bit of an understanding between both parties of, when we're on site, when we're not, and it becomes more challenging on organizations to really, who are in the professional services world, customer or client service, to be able to show that they can do the same work in a different working environment. And I think these last couple of months have forced us to prove that. And I think the firms that transition the best and are able to prove that they can work in multiple environments in this, in this new world, are going to be the successful ones. So that was a bit of a long intro there, Lonnie, but I could keep going. There's a lot to talk about, and it's anyone who says they really know what's going to be happening probably doesn't, right? There's going to be a lot of changing and a lot of things that people need to understand when they come back. And, fortunately, we're in a position where we can help organizations to do this, work with them to help build, the best way to bring their staff back. And that's everything from technology to real estate to organizational design, right? And anything related to HR. So I think we can cover a lot of bases for our clients when it comes to this. So.
Yeah, I completely agree, Dan. Our organization has, how should I best put this? We've grown tremendously since the pandemic. It may sound strange given some of the challenges, many of the challenges other organizations have faced that have led to their contraction. One's going to ask, well, why? Well, in my opinion, we're in a position since day one of the firm to maximize our ability to provide great client services remotely. It doesn't matter if our clients are in North America or in Europe or or APAC, Asia Pacific. We are fully optimized to do so. We were built around a workforce that is not just local, regional, and global. And we leverage multiple technologies. Our clients recognize that and trust in our ability to do great work, whether on site or abroad. And Dan, if you want to share some thoughts around that, some specific examples. Obviously, can't share too much, but just give some specific examples, and then let's dive into what we've built as an organization that we can do for other organizations to help them return to work.
Yeah, I mean, we have staff in Austin, Texas, in Ann Arbor, Michigan. We have staff in Chicago and in New York and in DC and in Memphis and in Boston. So, we've got people everywhere able to support multiple clients in different locations. But, we've been able to transition and use this time to really build our business in a way that allows us, to move into this, like say 21st century, I guess we're 20 years in, but into this new way of thinking and the way of working. And so, just Lonnie, to add to that, like I said, we cover a lot of the topics and how when we consult with our clients and the services we provide, we also walk the walk. So we do it ourselves. And I think it's important that firms, if they can't do it for themselves, then they probably shouldn't be advising clients on certain things. And so we take it upon ourselves to, as you'll see here, build a SharePoint site on how we want to address COVID-19 when it comes to going back to work and what that means for our staff. We've made a point to focus on having these sorts of video conference meetings with our staff when we're going through an interview process, making sure we have interviews that are virtual like this, and getting to know what things will look like now, and really testing things for ourselves that we can then apply to some of our client support. So I think there's a lot there and a lot we can cover. And, whether it's in the US or it's in Europe or it's elsewhere, we're able to support clients and use our relationships to, find quality staff and continue to build our team. So.
Right. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and display what we have built. Okay. All right. So Dan and Danielle, if you guys, maybe start with Dan, if you want to provide an overview of this, and Danielle, you can walk us through each section, and the two of you discuss the specific benefits of this, whether it's for our organization or it could be used for another organization. And just let me know, and I'll scroll down when you want me to scroll down.
Yeah, so I'll give a quick overview, and then Danielle, I think it'd be good for you to talk about the different sections in here. But we have global company here, but really, any business can use this template and this model. But the point is to have a place for your staff to go. We're using SharePoint in this instance. Obviously, there are other systems where they can go to understand what the requirements are for the company as it relates to COVID-19. What it means to telework, when they should call off sick, and the policies, the broader policies within the public sphere and public policy, but also within the firm, and how we want to address this, and how we want to make sure staff, as I was saying before, feel comfortable with their company really taking care of them and making sure that their safety and well-being are first and foremost. So I think this is a good starting point for organizations. And obviously this can be created to fit into any sort of business that may be looking for something like this. So Danielle, do you want to walk through the different sections and what we're talking about here? And I can chime in as you go through, if that's okay.
Sure. So obviously on the top, we have just a simple banner, just to kind of get everybody's attention. And we give them, users right off the bat, an opportunity to participate in the survey to let us know if they are feeling ready to get back to the office. Obviously, it is really just to test the waters to see how the majority are feeling. If those people are, there's some people that are still worried about either getting COVID or bringing it home to someone they live with or something of that nature, while others may not. So we kind of want to test the waters and see how everybody's feeling, if they're ready. And you can see below that we have the results, live results, where, you know, we can see kind of how everything is spread out. We can see which ones are unsure, we're ready, not ready, etc. And over on the right, we have just some tips and just some overall updates for the employees so they can see how many in the company are reporting or not reporting information, some steps to help them cope with everything. And we find more information is sometimes better. So these things may seem like they're no-brainers, but it's good to have people on the same page. There's a lot of information floating around out there these days, and to have everybody on the same page, you don't have to assume everybody's thinking what you are. And then below that, we have some policy updates. Obviously, the prior sick leave and teleworking and whatnot, those things wouldn't have necessarily fit this new mold that we have. So we've made a few updates and put them right out in front so everybody can see them right away. And again, over on the right, we have some more tools and tips and advice, just again, to keep everybody on the same page while we go through this together.
At the bottom, Danielle, there's a comment section, which I think is great because it allows instant feedback from the user, things that we might not have thought of. You know, our employees being able to provide us some really great recommendations. You know, I know some organizations don't like the comments to be on, but we're one that really likes collaboration. We benefit greatly from it, and having this functionality is important. Maybe some thoughts there. And
it actually promotes engagement as well and gives everybody kind of a sense of community and belonging and contribution to help make this something that they go to. If they contribute to it, it makes them feel a little more tied to it. It's kind of, I heard a term recently called the IKEA effect. And that's where if you do, you know, a lot of the work, but you leave some of the work for the person, the user or the purchaser, then they feel a little more, they feel prouder, they feel more, I'm trying to think of the term, tied to that, more
engaged.
Thank you, right. Engaged with the product.
Mm-hmm.
That's great, Danielle. And Dan, you worked at a very well-known multinational organization for a couple of years. They're one of your clients. Thinking about that and organizations that are global that would have similar footprint in terms of population, right? Spread across the world, very dynamic, a lot of complexities built into the organization because of it. Now, what would be things that you'd want to see in something like this?
Yeah, so I think, when you're talking about a global organization, whether it's commercial or a public sector organization, understanding what's happening in different countries. So what countries are associated with that organization and understanding how the rules are different, what it means to travel between those countries and what the requirements are for quarantining and other things that are becoming becoming commonplace in a lot of countries. When you're talking about the U.S., you're talking about even, call it, Washington, D.C., understanding which parts of D.C. You've got Washington, D.C., Mecklenburg County, Arlington County, Fairfax County, all these areas, and then the states of Maryland and Virginia. Everybody's doing things a little bit different. So even a breakdown of by county, by city, and obviously by country on how the rules are and what the stay-at-home orders are, and if there is a second wave of this and what it means, and making sure your company is prepared for it. This certainly caught a lot of organizations, public and private, pretty much everybody, off guard, right? Unless you were already 100% telework company, this whole situation caught everybody off guard. So, I think God forbid this happens again, or there's a second wave, other organizations are ready and they need to be ready for this. And I think, fundamentally changing the way you do work will impact that. But to answer your question specifically, Lonnie, I think it's just understanding where the guidelines are different, in the news where there are spikes in areas of of cases, and knowing that before you travel, and I think understanding where most of your staff are traveling, and having guidelines on what it means to travel. I think if you scroll down a little bit, Lonnie, when there's a piece in here where we have about travel and what it means, and if you go to a high, an area with a lot of cases and everything, what it means to come back. Actually, if you get down a little bit lower than that, I think to the bottom, right? Traveling and commuting. See, so that's really key as well. I think commuting is just as important, because if you're riding a metro or a subway, it's going to be, those are places where it's easy to catch something. So, I think just even a more robust look would be used for some of these bigger organizations. So.
Great, thank you. Let me stop sharing this real quick. Here we go. So if you're an organization that doesn't have something like that, that has relied primarily on email for communication, or Zoom or Zoom-like, obviously they should start to think about building something like that. But what would be, at a high level, the steps that they should take into consideration, and how can we help with that?
Yeah, so I think the bigger steps are, I think what Danielle talked about first is checking with your staff, right? How are your staff handling working from home? I mean, what's happening in your house also dictates whether or not you can work from home efficiently. Right now there are a lot of families that have two parents who are both working, and they have children at home and no daycare, so parents have to take turns watching kids versus working. And so, perhaps those families would be better off, or would feel that they're okay to go to the office to have a little bit more room to concentrate and things like that. So I think the first step is getting an understanding of what worked, what didn't during this process, as we start to come out of it, whenever that is, if it's next couple weeks, next couple months, and really taking that and using that to build on how you want to handle your business and how you want to address staff. Now, when it comes to something like real estate, I think the ripple effects of this are going to be vast. And I think a lot of these organizations that have had very big footprints when it comes to office space are going to shrink significantly. And if we're talking just about offices, having an office in every city because you have some staff there is probably no longer going to be the norm. I could see where, something like WeWork, or a competitor of WeWork, becomes the norm for cities that aren't where the headquarters is located. I mean, organizations need a headquarters, they need a place for staff to go. But if the majority of your staff are working remote, maybe there's just an option for them to go work somewhere else in case this happens again. I mean, you're going to see that office space is not going to be in the, have the demand that it had before. So from an organization perspective, it's understanding what people want, how that impacts your business. And the one piece that we haven't talked about yet is really productivity of staff. Every organization should know, which staff members are their top performers and so forth, and who, where productivity might be a challenge with certain staff. And I think it's critical to try and measure at the end of this what productivity is like now versus, before all this happened. To get a better picture of, were you as productive? Were you more productive? Did you fall off a cliff? Were you very unproductive? and using that as the basis for how you address things in the future as well. So I think that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. And Danielle, we've used SharePoint, for a variety of things, and obviously it came in handy for this. Has a lot of capabilities, but we could also use NeoCase, the portal for NeoCase, their landing page or something. But when companies are considering doing something like this, what are, let's say, the top 3 things that they must take into consideration or should take into consideration in terms of the specific technology, the functionality that's going to be required so that this thing is interactive? It's not just building it, but building it quickly, being able to update it quickly, and ensuring that it's interactive for the user and it has information that is dynamic.
Well, one of the things obviously is connectivity. So not everybody is going to have super high speed internet. People out in the country folk like myself might have a little slower internet. So you want to have, you want to consider that. And not have things that are just too interactive. There's like flashy videos and things like that. You don't necessarily need that plastered all over your main pages. You want to have just kind of simplistic content in a lot of ways. And also you want it to be easily found. In the same note, it's just connectivity and just people's general attention span being what it is these days. You want it to be found quickly and easily, give them what they want right away. Otherwise, they're going to be on the phone or sending emails and email. So those are the kind of things that I would consider. And also something that's web-based like SharePoint or like NeoCase that is just kept up to date with the latest technology, because browsers change constantly. Whether it could be the languages that they use or the security layers that they use, they change all the time. And so with these kind of cloud-based systems, that change is already done for you. You don't have to worry about doing any updates or anything. It's done without you even knowing, and will be working as all the time, pretty much. Very little downtime in those cases.
Great, thank you, Danielle.
Okay.
Well, folks, I hope for those that have an opportunity to view this throughout the United States and the entire globe, I'm sure you'll have questions. Feel free to post those in the comments section of YouTube or LinkedIn or wherever it is you'll be watching this. This will be placed on multiple social media venues. We'll get back to you as quickly as possible, or feel free to reach out to us at www.mcbrideconsulting.net. There is an area within the contact us page where you can submit your information. We'll get right back to you. Or feel free to reach directly out to us, Dan Obermeyer, Danielle, myself, or on LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with us, and we're happy to help where we can. And we're here to help, like we have many of our clients in the past, and we currently are on a variety of things, not just COVID-related activities. So hoping to help you. Thanks, and have a great day. And to my team, thank you very much for putting this together. I always appreciate your support for what we do.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.